Well, you actually had some bad news in your life recently because your wife's parents lost their home in the Altadena fire.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I didn't realize until you and I started talking was Altadena was the first neighborhood in California to allow black people to buy property.
Yeah, Altadena is historical in that every it was the first neighborhood that black people were allowed to buy homes. That's why everybody, Jackie Robinson, and just every black
Muhammad Ali
entertainer,
had a home there,
Muhammad
right?
Ali,
Yeah.
everybody. That's the first place you could go. And so with the loss of Altadena, it kind of felt like Black Wall Street, Oklahoma to me, because it's such a history there. And my mother and father-in-law lost their home of over 50 some odd years.
50 something years?
Yeah, yeah. It was the house that my wife was born in.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the 70s then? 60s maybe?
70s. She get pissed off at you.
Well, no, but I mean, they could have owned a
but-
home before they had her.
No,
is what I'm saying.
actually, yeah. They, so, yeah, man. But like, whew, just the picture of the property, like they lived on a corner, and that picture of just rubble, man. That picture could have been something completely different because her mom and our daughter, they came to our house. They evacuated around 8 o'clock. Her father chose to stay. He didn't think the fire was going to come down the mountain like that. And everybody was frustrated with him, but he said, "No, I'm going to stay." Luckily, 4:15 in the morning, he woke up, looked out of the window, house across the street, fully engulfed. Looks out his window, back porch is already on fire. Runs out of there in like a minute and a half, grabs the dogs, runs, gets in his car, drives to my house. He's so frazzled by the time he gets to my house, can't even park the car. I parked the car for him. I got in that car and almost choked because of the smell of the smoke in the car, and I'm a half an hour away from him. He drove through smoke. He said it reminded him of Vietnam, which he suffered some issues, PTSD from that. But it was like the fact that he couldn't even see. Now his neighbor was hosing down his house, right? Hosing down his house and had to run out of there at 11 o'clock. But he hosed down part of my father-in-law's house before he left. He showed a video of what it looked like at 11, and it looked like the apocalypse. So at 4:15, what my father had to go through, I can't imagine. He said he couldn't even see. But now the picture of that rubble, man, that would have been a picture of my father-in-law's last resting place. And so that puts things in perspective. And that is a picture of triumph over something, otherwise terrible, which it was, that you lose all these, belongings or whatever. But real quickly, it's the second, it is the second place to losing a loved one like that. So they're doing really well with it. We got them in a house that's like 5 minutes from ours. And so, man, and they're doing really well. You missed the big party, you was out of town for my wife's 50th birthday party, and her father and mother were dancing their ass off, and that was only like a week after the house was burned down, or a couple weeks. But they're good. They're good.
They had home insurance.
Yes.
And fire insurance.
They had very good home insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got there was a check the following day. Like, it was unheard of how fast. If I could remember their home insurance, I'd shout out to them right away. But they're amazing insurance that they had.
Yeah, I don't know if we spoke about this during that time, but when the fire started breaking out, I found out that the home insurance on my house had lapsed. The State Farm had actually shut it down, I think like maybe 2 weeks before the fire broke out, and none of the insurance companies were taking on new policies while the fires were active. So I was freaking out for a whole week. Yeah. So I finally hooked up with this one insurance agent who signed me up to something called the FAIR Act, which was like a state-run insurance.
Right, yeah.
Up to a certain amount, but it was enough. If the house had burned down to the ground, it was enough to rebuild the house. But it was like for a whole week.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I was just stressed the fuck out every day thinking, I'm about to lose millions of dollars if this fire hits my house. Because I'm completely uninsured.
I remember we talked about that.
I was freaking out. I had a really bad week. And my house was ultimately unaffected in Calabasas, but from what I understand, a lot of these homes that burned down completely in Altadena and Palisades and so forth, a lot of these people didn't have insurance. Bro. Because, I think a lot of people were thinking, because State Farm shut down all the insurance policies in California, period, in November. And I think a lot of people felt like, well, if I get insurance, maybe I'll get it in the summer. That's when fire season will start. I mean, it's the winter. How bad could it be? No, it got really bad. Yeah, and I think a lot of people lost if they own the house. And here's the thing also, this is some of the nuances of what's happening. If you have a mortgage, the bank requires you to have home insurance because they hold the deed.
Right.
And they're like, you're not going to fuck around and mess up our investment. But if you own a house outright, like for example, my house I own outright, you don't have to get home insurance. That's up to you. Yeah. So a lot of these homes, like you're talking about, like in Altadena, where people have been there for 40, 50 years, they paid off the house 20 years ago, they own it outright. A lot of them probably didn't bother to get insurance because it was a very significant cost. They just own the land at this point, and they have to sell. If it's like, let's just say a $2 million house, they'll probably get maybe $500,000 for it because it's the land and the foundation. That's it. The whole house has to be rebuilt.
Yeah, and people are trying to swoop in and take advantage of these people.
Yeah.
And offering them $300,000 for their property.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I was right. I said 500 is 300. Yeah, it's even less.
Man, brother, Magic Johnson's coming in. We got our heroes, man. And I got to applaud these people who are looking out for other people. And, give them their flowers, man. Magic and others who are doing things, doing the right things for people. Yeah. But, there's another tragedy that was connected to that. Do you know that there was no announcements to evacuate? All the evacuated people, it came through basically word of mouth, bro.
Wow.
Word of mouth. You think my father-in-law knew that it was intended to come down? Well, Palisades is quite different. They had evacuated. If you noticed, even if you wasn't even close by a place, it was telling you to possibly evacuate. And not so with Altadena. That had to be word of mouth. That should be looked into because, we almost had a very bad tragedy.
Yeah. You could rebuild a house, a loss of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
There's
Plus, burning to death, one of the worst ways to die. It's just horrific on every level.
Gillian's friend, her father, was hosing down their house. He died in the driveway with the hose in his hand.
Oh man!
With the hose in his hand. Now, just think about what had to have occurred for that to happen.
If I were to guess, he probably didn't have insurance on his home, and he was panicking and trying to do whatever he could do, maybe last minute, to try to save, which is probably his life savings in that home.
Yeah, but also how fast the fire came.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah.
No, one of my lawyers lost her entire home in the Palisades on the first day. All she could take was her passport and a couple of personal items, and whole house completely gone.
Yeah.
I remember she texted me and sent me pictures. It was like, oh man, it was a bad couple of weeks in LA, man.
Oh yeah,
it really was. I was out in New York at that time, but it was a bad couple of weeks in LA. And luckily it's over at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope we gotta make sure that shit doesn't happen again, especially with this warning bullshit. That's the thing that bothers me.